Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder as I head out for a walk and deliver an episode to you while I stroll around. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good afternoon. It is a lovely day here in suburban Chicago. It is partly cloudy with the sun peeking out from behind some clouds occasionally. It's warm, but not outrageously warm. It's about 3 in the afternoon, so it's not a terrible time to take a walk, even though this time of July it normally would be a pretty unpleasant time to take a walk. So feeling pretty good. I'm glad to be talking with you today. It's been a week. It's been quite a week. So I was looking at the survey of the month. It's nearly the end of the month. I'm recording this on July 26th. And I realized I had not done a movie retrospective episode this month, or if I did, it was in service of May instead of June. So I'm still getting caught up, working back toward being on pace, and so I thought I would do that. That's the movie Roundup. I haven't heard a lot of feedback about these episodes one way or another. I'd be keen to know what you think of them. I did realize, looking back, that I had kind of drifted away from the original idea, which was to talk about movies and a game that makes me think of in contrast with the movie. So I'm going to try to do that when I'm talking about them. Given my flighty nature, though, it's possible that I will say that I'm going to do that and then immediately forget to do that. So we'll see how it goes. So I didn't watch that many movies in June of 2022, and partly because I ended up quarantining. And that's why I didn't produce as many episodes of the podcast. But also, while I was quarantining, I watched an awful lot of the episodes of the TV show House, like 2.5 seasons of it or something, which was quite enjoyable. I'd never really watched it before, and it's fun. Although, I'm not sure. The main character, Gregory House, is supposed to be, he's like a jerk, but he's a Sherlock Holmes jerk, and he really plays up the jerk part, and unnecessarily so. And I'm not sure how I like it. I mean, he's not nice, but it's a fun show, and interesting to see what's going on. I really enjoyed the little nods to the fact that he's a sort of medical Sherlock Holmes. He lives at 221B, for instance. I haven't seen anyone in this show yet acknowledge that Sherlock Holmes exists. So I'm wondering if in the world of House, the novel series or the short stories about Sherlock Holmes exist or not. I assume they do. Most other pop culture does. But then has no one acknowledged that he lives at 221B? Or does he know that? Did he do it on purpose? Anyway, so I watched 5 movies, or I recorded that I watched 5 movies in June, and here they are. The first one was The Accountant. Now this is a Ben Affleck movie that I watched a while back, and I found it on HBO, and I remembered enjoying it, and I watched it again. It's interesting, even just, I think I watched it 4 or 5 years ago. Even just getting like that 5 years perspective really makes me wonder about this movie, because this movie is sort of made from the idea of respecting or trying to understand people with neurodivergence. In the movie, there is a character with a rather severe form of autism whose father sort of doesn't believe in warm therapy, instead believes in, aggressive therapy or something. And so the main character ends up having pretty self-destructive activities, although the premise of the movie is he is a genius accountant who can do forensic accounting and figure out what's going on, but then he also is really good with guns and stuff, and he's like a fighter murderer guy. It's a premise, but I suspect that it is not as enlightened as it imagines itself to be regarding neurodivergent people. I don't know that there's much that this movie makes me think of, other than, this would be an interesting movie to play with a really thinky economic game that demands that you think about 5 different things all at once, something like an On Mars, where you are trying to keep in mind all these different elements of your income and different resources that you need to manage a thing, because often on Mars, it's about efficiency, trying to maximize the points you'll get for a specific move. So then you need to set up that move with 3 or 4 other preliminary moves. And some of that feels like what's going on in The Accountant. So yeah, I'll say On Mars. Or maybe The Gallerist. The Gallerist feels closer. And actually, in The Accountant, one of the ways that he stores his wealth is he buys original paintings. So are fine art. So there you go. All right, the next movie, I'm gonna put two of them. I think I mentioned a couple of these in June, that I was enjoying movies where people get trapped in a place together and they have to solve puzzles to escape in order to not die. And the two movies that I watched were called Escape Room and Escape Room Tournament of Champions. These are horror movies in the vein of what I just talked about. A group of people get invited to a mysterious escape room, and it turns out that it's a deadly escape room, and people are betting on who's going to survive. You know, these movies are entertaining for the puzzles, entertaining for the plot, not really much for character development. The second movie, Escape Room Tournament of Champions, does follow the arc of the first of the elaboration sequel, in which we build a larger world and we get more detail about the other side, the opposite side of the protagonists. If you think about John Wick and John Wick 2, there's an interesting parallelism there, I think, between Escape Room and Escape Room Tournament of Champions. Obviously, the thing that this makes me think of are the one-play escape rooms, escape room games. You could actually go to an escape room and, you know, play that. But the one-play escape room games fit this pretty well. And I think in particular, the Sausage and Squeak carnival-themed escape room games from Unlock feel the most like what this is, like a kind of maniacal games master trapping people and making them pursue and solve puzzles in order to not die. That feels very much like what's happening in Escape Room and Escape Room Tournament of Champions. So there you go. The next movie that I watched was Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, this is a movie I'd seen before, of course. It's the second of the Tom Holland Spider-Man films, the first one being Homecoming and the third one being No Way Home, I believe. In Spider-Man Far From Home, Peter Parker has gone on a trip to Europe and been given the world's most powerful weapon by Tony Stark. And, you know, bad things happen because he's a teenager with incredible power. And that seems to be the theme of all three of the Peter Parker Spider-Man movies, which is that he's a teenager with incredible power who has yet to learn the necessary limits to what he's doing. You know, from that perspective, it's a fine movie. Not my favorite of the three. I think that it might be my least favorite of the three. My favorite of the three being the most recent one that had all the Spider-Mans, as well as the characters from the other movies. That was pretty enjoyable. But it was fun to rewatch. So having seen the rest of the recent cycle of the Marvel movies play out, it was fun to go back and watch this one again. It was also fun to watch with my daughter, who is a big Taylor Swift fan. Taylor Swift famously has some sort of grudge against Jake Gyllenhaal because of their past romance. And so it was fun for my to hang out with my daughter and talk about how much we dislike Jake Gyllenhaal. It was amusing. So that was Spider-Man Far From Home. As for a game to play with it, I mean, I don't have a lot of Marvel-themed games. I used to have Marvel Legendary, which is a fun way to think about Spider-Man, but relatively abstracted. I would suspect if you had Marvel Champions, you could enjoy a game of Spider-Man as your hero in engagement with this particular system. But I haven't played that, so I can't really speak to how fun it would be or not. Alternately, you could play a game of Heroes Wanted, which is a superhero game that I have from a long time ago, about a bunch of amateurish superheroes who are trying to make a name for themselves. That one would really go well with the movie Mystery Men, but there is some elements of that in this one where you have the Mysterio character trying to make a name for himself, and you also have Peter Parker, who becomes the Night Monkey, I think it's called, the sort of Spider-Man character that he plays in Europe, so people don't realize it's Spider-Man. That works pretty well. And yeah, so as far as those things go, I think that's a good way to talk about, to think about what you do with the Spider-Man Far From Home as far as the board game goes. Finally, and this is a weird movie, but it might be my favorite from the month. Yeah, I think I could say that. This is No Clue. No Clue is a mystery comedy movie in which the main character is a novelty salesman. Like, he sells branded novelties. So if you are having a conference and you want to put your name on a coffee mug, he's the guy for you. So this guy ends up, he's working in his office late one night, and across the hall from him is the office of a private detective. And this woman comes in and sits down and starts telling him her sob story about her missing boyfriend. And it becomes evident that she thinks he is a private investigator. And of course, he thinks she's very pretty. And so he pretends to be a private investigator so that he can stay in contact with her, basically pretends he's going to solve the case for her. It's very funny. He is the guy who plays this novelty salesman is, I feel like the best word is like schlub. He's like sort of pudgy and middle-aged and not very attractive and not athletic. And then so he goes into these private eye experiences, but he's continually wisecracking, makes lots of like dumb jokes, and investigates the crime anyway. It's a low arc movie, by which I mean there's not a lot of tension. You don't find yourself freaking out that you don't know what's going to happen. You're not biting your nails with tension. It's just a light comedy, but it's really fun. Amusing dialogue, entertaining characters. You've got David Koechner playing basically a David Koechner type character, and it's a lot of fun. So if you get a chance to check out No Clue, I would highly recommend it. As for a game that would connect to it, actually some of the escape room games feel like they would fit, but maybe a role-playing game would fit better. So something like Alice is Missing might be a game that would allow you, because in that game you are trying to solve a mystery, but you're not actually a detective. You are high schoolers trying to find your missing friend, and I think that works really well. So if you wanted a game to play that was similar to No Clue, I would say Alice is Missing might be one, although it's not funny. I'm trying to think of a detective game that was funny. There's a 2-player role-playing game that I got that's basically a Clue spoof. It's called One More Thing. That might be a game that would be fun to play in line with Clue, or No Clue. Well, thanks for joining me on my walk today. What movies have you been watching? Head over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and share your recent movie experiences. Let me know if you've seen the movies I watched and what you think of them. Thanks for joining me on my walk today. I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.